As part of its legacy, GoMRI has put enormous emphasis on the training of young scientists. They created the GoMRI Scholars Program to recognize outstanding graduate students working on GoMRI-funded projects and pushed postdocs and other early career scientists to leadership positions as part of the mission. Earlier in my career, I actually worked as a web writer for GoMRI, and I was a staff writer for Concord. And as part of that role, I conducted a series of interviews with young scientists, including the 3 who are here with me, and about the fact that they were being actively encouraged by their senior researchers to take on more leadership roles. So you should find a link in the chat to an article I wrote about the consortium's mission to mentor young scientists, and interviewed these 3 scientists here. It was about 5 years ago. So we're going to talk today about where they've come in 5 years. First of all, we have Dr. Kemal Cambazoglu. He is an assistant professor of ocean engineering at the University of Southern Mississippi. He started out with Concord as a postdoc and later was elevated to a co-PI on the project. Dr. Sabrina Parra, who was a postdoc on the project with the Naval Research Lab, and she's now a physical oceanographer at the Applied Physics Library at Johns Hopkins University. And finally, Dr. Stephan O'Brien, who was a PhD student and a GoMRI scholar, is now a Deakin IX Blue Industry Postdoctoral Research Fellow at Deakin University in Australia. You'll find a link to a story from the GoMRI website about Dr. O'Brien's as a GoMRI scholar. And I especially thank you for being here because it is very early where you are, and early tomorrow, right? Early, yes, for us, early tomorrow. So I'm going to ask you some similar questions that I talked to the PIs about, but from your perspective as kind of growing up with GoMRI, growing into your professional role with GoMRI. So my first question is, and we're just going to go, I'm going to go left to right as I see you on the screen, and that is, how did your work with GoMRI get you to your current position, and just kind of describe in a little bit of detail what you did with Concord and how that led to your current role. So Dr. O'Brien, you are the first one I see, and so you can get us started because you've also traveled the furthest.
Yeah, so with Concord, I worked with the small boat team, so Dr. Donskowski and Steve Dykstra, as well as I worked with the model group, Dr. Wiggert being my main advisor to help to develop the sediment component of the model. So I used remote sensing as well as water samples and the model to look at how the sediment moves within the Gulf of Mexico, and the bigger picture being how would that affect the movement of oil in the event that there was an oil spill in that region. And because of my multidisciplinary work, I was offered this position here at Deakin University while I was still in grad school at USM. So definitely my involvement with Concord has led me to my current position.
Great. Dr. Cambazoglu, you are next in my field of vision, so talk to us about your journey.
Sure. Thank you, Tara, for inviting us to this great event, first of all. Like you said, I joined Concord as a postdoctoral research scientist at USM, and the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary work that we conducted allowed me to grow tremendously as part of Concord. And I'm sure it also let my fellow early career scientists, colleagues to grow as researchers, scientists, and engineers. And now here I stand as an assistant professor in the ocean engineering program at USM, like you said, and started as a postdoc, ended as a tenure track faculty. You could understand the positive impact that Concord and GoMRI funding had on my career. It cannot be emphasized enough, especially because of the opportunity to collaborate with a great Concord team of physical, biological, chemical, geological oceanographers, engineers, as well as hydrographic scientists. So to list a few of the Concord pieces that I had a chance to involve and participate in is multiple field campaigns, support research cruises from our ocean weather lab at USM, had a chance to collaborate, with scientists, with our colleagues to synthesize ocean model products, field in situ field measurements, as well as satellite ocean color data, which helped us better understand the dynamics, the complex dynamics of Mississippi Sound and Bight, of course. So some of these problems Dr. Wigger just mentioned a few minutes ago: harmful algal blooms, hypoxia, impact of freshwater diversions, especially the Bonnet Carré spillway openings, the most frequent openings like Dennis Wiesenberg, mentioned, and of course oil spill transport pathways. So all these helped me understand the importance of these dynamics and also effectively communicate our science and research to communities in the area, fishermen, like Pat Fitzpatrick said, stakeholders and decision makers. So all of this provided an invaluable experience for me throughout Concord, and I should say it helped me build a strong foundation and also helped me shape my research for many years to come.
Great. Dr. Parra.
Yes, well, my part in the Concord Consortium was primarily to study the ocean currents and turbulence on the shelf while I was a postdoc with the Naval Research Lab. And that work was not only did I work on that, but I also worked with biological oceanographers in our group to study the diel migrations of the zooplankton as observed through the backscatter profiles on the shelf, and worked with a interdisciplinary group in Concord to look at the Bonnet Carré spillway effects on the shelf. So having this wide variety of topics that I worked on was essential for my current position at Johns Hopkins at the Applied Physics Lab, where I do mostly ocean turbulence, but I also collaborate with people in different topics to do the work that we do. So it definitely has helped to have a wide range of experience in where I am right now.
Well, and as I recall from rereading the article I wrote 5 years ago, Kemal and Sabrina, you both worked on planning Concord's research cruises, did you not? Was that unusual in as postdocs to be planning a research cruise, planning the transects that they would, or is that run of the mill, everybody does it?
I'm not sure if it was unusual, but I'll be honest with you, it was at one of the GoMRI meetings, I think, maybe the one in Tampa, if I remember correctly, and the PIs approached us and said, hey, you three, so it was Sabrina, myself, and Inia Soto Ramos, our colleague who is at NASA now, who was an early career scientist too. We were tasked to plan, and I should say it was a very, very rewarding experience. Working closely together, really planning a research cruise field campaign activities, not just Point Sur for that case, but also RV Pelican and other small boat activities that's ongoing simultaneously. It was a very rewarding experience.
Yes, it definitely gave us a point of view of what it takes to plan these cruises.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I want to ask you about some of the PIs who supported your work, because I know, again, my memory from talking to you before was that, of course, you had the PIs that you worked with in your own institutions, but through Concord, you also became close to PIs from other institutions. And I just want to give you a chance to if you wanted to do a brief shout out to anyone that you felt like really supported you and helped you get to where you are now. And I'm going to go back left to right and start with Dr. O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I'd like to thank my main advisor, Dr. Wigger, Dr. Gonskowski, and Steve Dykstra, who I worked with, Dr. Fitzpatrick, Dr. Lau, Dr. Huffman, Dr. Travis Miles, Mike Dinneman, Dr. Hernandez and his lab group, Dr. Church and his lab group, Dr. Schiller, Dr. Wiedemann, Dr. Book, Dr. Howden, Dr. Wallace and his lab. I also work really closely, as I said, with the postdocs, Kemal, Chudong, Sabrina, Inya, and Adam Gray. And Ali Mojers and Kevin Martin assisted with fieldwork and lab analysis. And also our data manager, Jamie, I work really closely with him and working with the model component. So yeah, that's my list.
Okay, Dr. Cambazoglu.
That was a very comprehensive
I was
list.
going to say, we probably have the same list. Do you have the same list?
So maybe I should add shout outs to Adam Boyette and Virginie Sanyal as one of the two fellow early career scientists that we worked with during Concord. I'd like to specifically mention 3 PIs at USM, Dr. Riggert, Dr. Howden, and Dr. Bob Arnold, who were really the most memorable PIs. I appreciated their support, their direction, their guidance, and also their collaborative research, for multiple years. But from outside USM, I'd like to appreciate and mention our colleagues at NRL. I'm sure Sabrina will mention some of them. Dr. Greg Jacobs, Dr. Jeff Book, Dr. Ellen Wiedemann, like Stephan mentioned. We closely collaborated with them, and it helped a lot of Concord activities working with them. And Concord and GoMRI actually helped us go across state borders and collaborate, with PIs from other states. Dr. Wankowski, like Stephan said, is one of them, from the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, that we work closely and still working. So really Concord and GoMRI helped us build relationships, with very many researchers.
All right, Dr.
Well, yes, like Kemal was saying, I was a postdoc at the Naval Research Lab, and I first and foremost would like to acknowledge my advisor, Jeff Book, who was extremely supportive of my career and was always willing to think about what was beneficial for me and my research, and make sure that whatever I needed was available as much as he could make happen. And I also got to work with Dr. Brian Deasy, I call him, I can't say his last name very well, in Alabama, Dauphin Lab. It was great working with him, and Dr. Howden at USM, and Dr. Jerry Wiggard at USM, they were all very supportive and very helpful throughout the years that we spent doing our research.
I want to add something real quick before you move on to the next question. I should say we really built friendships. The early career scientist group of Concord was very, very strong. And I am very happy to say that we really built lifelong friendships during the years that we worked together.
That was very
Yes,
apparent to me as an outsider, interviewing you all, just how much you enjoyed working together. It was a very happy place to go talk to people. There was no negativity, no, like side conversations. It was just all very positive and very supportive. So one last quick question, and you don't all have to answer this, or you can. In what ways was Mississippi a unique landscape, both physical and or cultural, to work in? And what about working there made your work challenging or rewarding or prepared you for where you are now? Does anyone, Kemal still works there, so he might be the best person to answer this. I don't know. Is Mississippi an unusual place to conduct science?
It's not an unusual place. People might not think and appreciate that Stennis Space Center actually is, a hub for oceanographers. So Admiral Goya that mentioned, the Stennis and multiple institutions there. So USM's Division of Marine Sciences there, right across the street, Mississippi State, and NOAA's NCEI is there. Like we mentioned, Naval Research Lab is there, National Data Buoy Center is there. So it actually brings a lot of oceanographers, engineers and scientists and researchers together. So this is a unique setting, and I think it was rewarding, and it is for me still rewarding, to be here, I should say. So other than the long drive and commute, there's a buffer zone around Stennis, right? But I don't mind driving, and luckily I'm against the traffic. So no really significant challenges. It was really more rewards that we had being here in Mississippi and at Stennis.
Great. Dr. O'Brien or Dr. Parra, do you want to comment on that? We're about to wrap up, so it's up to you.
Yes, I would like to say that the work that we did in Concord, which really encapsulates the magic of Stennis, where we were able to have a collaboration with biological, chemical, and physical oceanographers, modelers, people that focus on observations, remote sensing, bringing all of these different people together to work on this one project was really unique and special for me, and I think for all of us. And it really, I think, it elevated our careers and our experiences and our lives and work and all that. So
good. Dr. O'Brien.
And I think it was extremely beneficial to work with chemists, biologists, because I did a lot of physical oceanography as well as hydrography. So to be able to work from and look at different questions from the different perspectives helped me to become a better scientist. And as I approach other questions, I not only look at it from a physical oceanography perspective, but try to look at it from a broader scientific perspective, which I think will be even more beneficial than just focusing on the physical oceanography component.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time to join me today, 5 years later, or however long it's been. And stick around, because if we do get questions, I'm hoping we'll have time for a quick panel like we did in the front half.